Okay, going back to the laws of Ilchot Shabbat and the concept of Tchumin, a very interesting concept comes up. And remember, we said that Reshut HaYachid and the Tchum represent something spiritually, and Reshut HaRabim and outside the Tchum also represent something spiritually. And so therefore the closer domain to us are increasing in Kedusha. So for example, if we're going to talk about Tchum Shabbat, the Tchum Shabbat is the space or the distance from the borders of the town or the village, and then we count 2,000 amot from there to a place that we cannot travel anymore on Shabbat, of course by foot. Now, the Tchum Shabbat is what we call all mekif, all, the surrounding light on us. And everything is within the Tchum Shabbat is all pnimi. Now, if we're going to look at the structure, for example, of a familiar structure to us, let's say, for example, Beit HaMikdash. In Beit HaMikdash, even though the Temple Mount, where the holy temple used to be, not the Dome of the Rock and other historical fiction that some lunatics come up with, and I still don't understand why, even more so now, we're not allowed to do what we want on our Temple Mount. So much that the Jew cannot even drink water on the Temple Mount. I was listening on the news today. In the Temple Mount, on Har HaMoriah, different section of the Mikdash has different sanctity to them. We have the Hazrat Nashim, we have the Azara, we have the Kodesh, and then we have Kodesh HaKodeshim. That refers also to many other things. The same thing is in the Mishkan. In the Mishkan, we had where the Aron used to be, and then we had the Chatzer, and so on and so forth. That represent also other things. It's a similar pattern that goes along. So I have my own personal domain, which is my Arba Amot. The 4 Amot. How much is an Amah?
A foot and a half.
Approximately 1.5 what? Dollars? Feet. I hope you wash your feet. Now, we know that Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Ela Kadosh Baruch Hu, Ela Dalet Amot Shel Halacha, 4 Amot of Halacha. That's the most sacred thing, and that represents my own domain. I'm, in a way, representative of Kodesh HaKodashim, and the Holy of Holies, because I'm the person, I'm the Jew who does the mitzvot, does the Torah. That domain is very sacred, very important. Nobody can come into my domain, right? That's the Arba Amot Shel Halacha. You go out of that, then there is Reshut HaYachid, the private domain. That will be maybe the Kodesh, or maybe the whole Temple Mount. Then we have Reshut HaRabim, a place that many people can come in. And then we have the Tchum. So if, for example, we're going to say, there is the city of Yerushalayim, that will be Reshut HaRabim, right? When a lot of people come in, that's going to be Reshut HaRabim. That needs a wall. And you see from the Halachot Chumim how many things you need to apply to yourself. Even a city that a lot of people come in and go needs to have a certain guarding around it. And there's going to be the wall. And the deen of a wall, a city that has a wall all around it, is a little different than a city that doesn't have walls around it instead of Tchumim, as we learned before. Now, from the city boundaries, we have 2,000 amot. The 2,000 amot is what we call the Tchum Shabbat. Excuse me, so we have the Tchum of the city, the 2,000 amot. Then we have Reshut HaRabim of the city, whether there is a wall or there isn't a wall, but still there is the Tchum Shabbat. And then we have Reshut HaYachid, or we have Mevo'ot, and we have Reshut HaYachid. And then we have my own 4 amot, which the Holy of Holies will be almost my domain inside my house. If we're going to say that you have to say Divrei Torah belech techa baderech when you are walking, ve'en lecha ela HaKadosh Baruch Hu dalet amot shel halacha, it would mean that somewhere along the line, I need to protect this holy domain of my 4 amot every time I walk 4 amot with a certain word of halakha or a certain word of Torah in order to be mekayim ubelechtecha baderech, because the shmirah, the guarding of Am Yisrael is in the fact that they are keeping Torah. So if I'm going to go on the way, my guard, my protection is to recite Divrei Torah every 4 amot, so I'm carrying the Kedusha everywhere I go, which kind of makes sense to what we say, that wherever a person goes, he's moshech, he's pulling the Kedusha and does the tikkun on anywhere he goes. So therefore, any place that you're at, Torah has to be said. Torah has to be recited. And then you fix the tikkun of this place. Why is that? Because makom klipot, the place of impurity that really sucks up all the energy, so-called, from the holiness, is after the tchum of alpaim amah. Beyond that lies the area of the klipa. And because of that, we are not allowed to go. The tikkun cannot be done in Mekom HaKlipa past that, because you're becoming very vulnerable. Shabbat is your protection, but only within this gather, within this tchum of 2,000 amot. So we need to create a buffer zone between us and the klipa all the time. And if you take this and to apply it to your own lives, you need certain types of curtains, or filterization, or protection from the klipa, as much as you could see it in the setting of the mikdash, the Temple Mount, the cities, the tchum of the city, and so on and so forth. Why is the klipa out there? If we're going to take the concept of, how do we call this place that is an open space, how do we call it in halacha? Carmelit. Who does Carmelit belongs to?
Nobody.
No one. It's a free-for-all for everybody. That's where the bandits, usually when you will go out of the city, in the old days, why the cities had walls? For the bandits out, right? That's Mekom HaKlipa. Now the klipa does to you exactly what a bandit will do to you. Will it come in? Will molest you, would drive you crazy, would take everything from you, would bully you, would do all these things to you. That's what the klipa does to the kedusha. So the protection of that, the masa of Bnei Israel, when they were going in the desert, in a place that is a Carmelit, when it's no man's land. No man's land. In other words, who is there? No man. Just the klipa is there. How they would walk? It will be the Amud Anan or Amud Esh going in front of them. In other words, the divine providence was going before them. After that, the Mishkan would go, and only after that, Bnei Israel. That's their protection. And how they will go? The formation, they go like this and so on and so forth. So you're going to tell me, but the Mishkan was in the center. But anywhere they go, it's leading them. It's leading them based on that. The center, the Mishkan represents the universe, the way the universe is. And in any solar system, there's always a center and everything rotates all around. We need to make sure that we have this protection. Therefore, Rabotai, you can't be so lenient regarding Eruvin. Ishonov and Eruv, there's no Eruv and so on and so forth. Why? Because the Eruv and all those laws of Eruvim represent something much greater than that. You're becoming more vulnerable. If a place is not well secured, you are also become vulnerable spiritually. It's not just a technicality for convenience that we have an Eruv all around us. The Klipa stays or lives and nourishes when there's no man. Why? Because there's no one there. And then so when you come in, it takes hold of you. It takes hold of your neshama. Yes, technically I can walk from Brooklyn all the way to Soyoset because there's not a problem. People live within this distance. There's no gap in area that separates when there's no man's land. So therefore I could continue. I could be mamshich the tikkun with that, or bring the kedusha to every place I go. But beyond that, I'm vulnerable. I am not allowed to go. If you want to go to a place like this, you need divine providence. You need Amud Anan and Amud Esh. Alone you can do that. When you are on Shabbat, going to a desert and you're settling down, you making your Tchum Shabbat for 2,000 amot, let's say for example in a circle all around you, that's the spiritual protection that you come about. So don't be so easygoing about Eruv. There is Eruv, there's not Eruv, this Shita, that Shita. We know very carefully what the Shulchan Aruch says regarding Reshut HaRabim. Don't take it so lightly. Be very careful about this. Be very careful when you walk in the street to say Divrei Torah. Because that's your protection. That's your walk-in mezuzah. The mezuzah that we have on the door is that when you, besides the fact that it's Shem Hashem on it, is that when you enter the house, the first thing that you see and you touch is Divrei Torah. And how you should conduct yourself in the house and as a Jew. How? With love to Hashem. And everything else that says in the parasha over there. And then when you walk out of the house, when you go out of the house, you need to be mamshich the kedusha. How do you do so? You touch the mezuzah, and you need to understand that you bring the same conduct outside of the house as well. That's your protection. So when you're walking with that divrei Torah, even meharher, even thinking in divrei Torah, you're becoming vulnerable. And you need to remember that. It's a very, I know I said a lot of things, it's very deep, but I would encourage you to think about it, and I would encourage you to ask about it. And you can always reach us at rabbigaon@gmail.com. You can go to our Yeshiva, Etzion.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, where else? YouTube, and all the other places. We are all up there thanks to our great new guys that are coming here and doing an electronic revolution here. So please remember that, practice that, and have a kavanah to be mamshich the tikkun anywhere you go, and according to that, act appropriately. Have a great, wonderful, and protective day.